I'm probably going to mute myself more often
No
because
here.
they're playing a game, so I'm only going to unmute myself if I have something to say for now.
Okie dokie.
All right. Aries.
Yes.
Damn it.
Dink.
What are you going to give to Reese?
Fuck.
There it goes. Took some time, but it eventually got there.
It exploded on me.
Ooh.
Small explosion. Explosion!
Explosion.
Let's go. BCS says Metroid Prime is furious because of Sonic Prime. Because of Sonic Prime.
Because of Kenobi Prime.
Because of Kenobi Prime. Some good game fuel. Actually, I'm gonna wash my hands because I got it all over me. And now my hands are sticky, so 1 second.
I don't want that now. Oh, goodness.
Alright, I'm back. Dev stream, sort of. Yeah, we'll be going into Hawaii here in a minute.
Very simple reason.
Yep, it was a very, very simple reason as to why it's a sort of dev stream. What's up? How's it going, Azirio?
Who added me on the Infinity Plus updates?
I did.
Ah!
Oh no!
You hear about Sonic Prime ribs? Yeah, I like me some good ribs. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back.
God, there's going to be so many freaking jokes about this, isn't there?
That's the point.
You mean Sonic Prime, the brother of Optimus Prime. How's it going, Cherry?
Sonic. I mean, I should order my Mighty the Armadillo figure from Sonic Prime.
Sonic Prime is Amazon Prime's new high-speed delivery service.
Yep. High speed. If they had the license for it and it was on like Amazon Prime, it'd be perfect. And then like you could order stuff with Sonic Prime and it arrives same day.
I haven't seen anyone make a joke about the Sonic restaurant, like Sonic Prime being like the delivery service for the Sonic restaurant.
Oh god. It's gonna be so many memes now, guys. That's all we're gonna hear about for the next month.
All right.
Sonic Prime memes. What if the next game is also called Sonic Prime and it ties in?
Or the Sonic X Metroid Prime crossover that was inevitable to happen. Same hour. All right, so 1 second.
we got more to talk about it.
We're at the
It's
5 minute
late
mark,
to
so we can start to get going. The reason that this is a dev stream, sort of, is for two reasons. One, there's Sonic news, and I thought it would be fun to take some time in the dev stream and actually talk about the Sonic news, just like share our thoughts and stuff. And number two, because actually there's quite a bit of Sonic news, not just Sonic Prime, but there's also the fact that, you know, Roger Craig Smith has left the voice of Sonic, and potentially Pontac and Graf supposedly leaving as well. But the reason we want to take some time to talk about that, and the other reason why this is a sort of dev stream, is because we have done jack shit in the past 2 fucking weeks. Yeah, I can turn myself up. Give me 1 second. Actually, I am already turned up. I may have to turn my...
Speak for yourself, motherfucker.
I keep adjusting my mic volume because the thing is my roommate gets on Discord calls with people, and people can hear me over on his side, and I can hear him whenever he's like talking. He, like, my microphone picks him up, so I turn my audio down. All right, so hopefully that should be a little bit better.
I'm deaf.
When the hedgehog is sus. Sonic is the prime suspect. Sonic Prime numbers. Yeah, so like I said, Reese and I, at the very least, have not done jack shit in the past 2 weeks. We have not had any motivation to do anything, and Emmanuel has been busy with school. So we've not actually done a whole lot with the project, so there isn't actually a whole lot to show off. Meaning our actual dev stream segment of the stream is going to be short.
Very short.
Because we don't have a whole lot to show off. But as of the past... about the past 2 days, I have slowly grown out of my slump. So I will hopefully be actually back into development here in a minute.
In a minute, live on stream, we're going to develop.
Yep.
Alright, so we're giving Tails his gun, right?
So I got this new anime plot.
I got this new anime plot.
Basically, there's Tails with a huge gun.
With a huge fuck-off gun. I'm talking humongous fucking gun.
How many developers do you have? Well, there were 4 developers and sort of 5 developers, but now there's only the 3 of us at the moment. There's me, Vivanite, Emmanuel, and Hess.
Ow.
Ow.
Ah. Ouch.
However, Hess has been MIA for a long while now. He's had personal stuff that has come up in his life, so he's not actually been developing for a long while, which is okay. We're not holding it against him or anything. He's had stuff pop up.
I hope he's doing fine.
Yeah, we've not heard from him in a while. I hope he's doing all right.
Yeah, there's like we only have Discord to reach out to him with, and other than that, we can't actually really check up on it. Which, you know,
yeah,
I hope he's doing fine.
So we hope Hess is doing fine. And then there was Kowenji, who has also been super busy with school.
Just do that accent. What accent?
Did Reese just do that accent? You mean the British accent?
I didn't. When did I speak weirdly? I speak like this all the time.
You said "oh" at one point, but
Oh.
yeah. You're like "oh."
Oof.
That's a big oof right there.
So the Kowenji hasn't worked on the project in quite a long time because of school, and Hess hasn't worked on the project due to personal stuff. So it's mainly just been me, Vivanite, and Emmanuel. Those are the 3 people who have been working on the project. You know, the Brooklyn accent? You talking about the Brooklyn accent?
Did I do a Brooklyn accent? I can't remember. My brain hurts.
I don't remember either. So, to answer your question, 3 at the moment. But to like move on so we can actually get the dev stream part of the stream going, because it really will not take too long. I think there were 3 main things we worked on. There's the water volume, which we can show off, Knuckles, and then wasn't there a 3rd thing?
Character switching.
Yeah, the character switching, which, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
So, how's it going, Tiger?
Hello, Tiger.
To start things off, because it won't take too long, the water volume has been updated so that it takes up less processing power. There is a trigger box around the water volume now. Essentially, how the water volume used to work is it would begin as soon as it would load up, it would cast to the master character, save it as a ref, and constantly check to see if you're overlapping with it, which is not what it needs to do. So now what it does is it casts to the master once you overlap with a trigger box, and the trigger box will start a timer that will then check to see if you're overlapping with the actual water part of the volume. So, doing good, and been a while. How are you doing? We've been doing all right. These past 2 weeks, like I said, we've not done jack shit. But
We've had a creative block.
Yeah, other than the past 2 weeks, we've been doing good. So. I'm inside the trigger volume now, and now I'm outside of it. The timer is no longer running, but now I'm inside of it. The timer is running. So whenever I overlap with the water, it's going to go, oh, you're overlapping with the water. And then whenever I fall into the water, it'll actually work. Another problem we fixed that we didn't even really know existed was there was a sound volume that's being spawned inside of the water. That whenever the camera overlaps with the water, it'll play an underwater sound effect.
Underwater ambience, essentially.
Yeah, it's an underwater ambience volume that once the camera overlaps with it, it'll change. So once the camera leaves, the sound goes away. That was old O-band code that we discovered a little while back that said that was casting to the old character blueprints. So we just told it to, instead of casting to the old blueprints, cast to the master, and now it works. Oh boy, old code. It wasn't too difficult. All it did literally was like, oh, cast to the master, and then once this component in the master overlaps, play a sound. But well, actually, it said cast to Sonic or Shadow, but since
it was the old
yeah
blueprints,
all I had to do is replace the cast, so it wasn't really actually all that difficult.
He's basically a genius.
Knuckles' built-in Emerald radar malfunctions underwater and pings if the emerald is near. Time for advanced water acoustics. Yep. So water volumes are a little bit more optimized now. They're not running on an event tick. They're running on a timer that plays when you overlap with them.
Nice.
And we'll probably end up adjusting the code even further. Classic O-Man, am I right? To help demonstrate, you can see that there are actually two trigger boxes. There's this box right here, and then there's this box right here. And if I open up the water volume, you can see it. There's two boxes. The inner box is the actual water volume that does stuff to the character when you overlap with it, and the outer box is the trigger volume that activates the timer. So this just checks this character tracking box simply starts a timer that then runs what the event tick used to run. So it's a little bit more optimized now. And Emerald can always be near depending on your standards of near. Yeah, it depends on your it's like what is near and far away from you is all relative. So from the scale of the universe, I'm pretty sure an emerald will always be near you. I like my acoustic guitar to be ray traced. Do enemies interact with water in any special way? No. That is something we would like to have happen, but currently not at the moment.
We'll get to the enemies.
Yeah, because currently the water volume casts to the master and controls the master's code from there. We would have to change it to use an interface, which I'm not against doing. And the interface would then tell the master to change its physics from there. But that would be extremely difficult because the water volume has to track specific things with the master that it wouldn't need to track with other enemies. But that is something that we would like to look at and get into, but probably not right away. Welcome back, Tails. I'd like them to automatically transform into submarines. Gotta make underwater enemies. Once we figure out how to properly get a...
Summon me. Beans just said summon me. I'm confused.
Where did he say that at?
In private.
Oh. Underwater grind rails. Well, that technically does work. Underwater grind rails does work because the grind rails is a separate physics.
All that shit talk. Make it loud and clear for my ears. You can hear.
Uh-oh.
He's watching.
Oh, fuck. Oh no, it's Bane.
I wanted to hear this.
Mr. Bane, he's gonna snap our necks, just like Bane did. No, wait, it was the back. That was it.
Yeah.
Bane snapped Batman's back.
Yes. So let's see here. We have a new variable here called the trigger offset that will alter the offset of this trigger box specifically. So if I wanted it to scale up further, I can press like 2 and you'll see that the trigger box scales up. So however, because water volumes will be very different from player to player depending on your level design. So with this trigger scale, sometimes you may end up putting a trigger volume somewhere where the character will be able to interact with it faster or slower than in other situations. So having this trigger volume be a little bit more dynamic in its size and scale relative to the normal trigger volume is important. So that way you can make sure that the trigger volume will cast and start a timer for the main volume in time, depending on how your level design is set up.
Would be a want to join when we start talking about Sonic Prime. Is that what you were meaning, Bane?
Yeah, we'll be talking about Sonic Prime here soon. And I would not be against joining a call with Bane at that point.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Add like 5 to that. Let's add.
He doesn't care. I'm just listening. Well, we can talk with you when we get to Sonic Prime. It'll be in like 2 minutes because we haven't got anything else to show.
I mean, we do also have things we can talk about too.
So he says as he places his white soapstone. Killer Bean, Killer Queen. Air bubbles on land. Yeah, air bubbles do function on land, actually. They do not need to be underwater to function.
They serve no purpose when they're on top.
Yeah. One thing, I don't remember if I ever showed this off. Let me change it to unlit mode. But the water bubbles, I'm pretty sure I did show this off because I changed this a long time ago. The water bubbles, actually, you can change where the bubble will float to. So if you want to be a dick and like make it so that the water bubble spawner is right here, but the water bubble like spawns all the way over here, you can do that. And the water bubble will float over there, and you can also change how fast it'll like how fast it gets there. But you'd also have to make sure you change the disappear timer to make sure it lasts long enough to get there. So if you want to be a dick and change the bubble destination, I should probably change that to destination rather than location. But you can do that if you so desire.
He's just an absolute asshole making some troll level design.
Yeah.
Fizz.
Yep. We expect you to leak info regarding Sonic Prime. Oh, we got the hot deets on Sonic Prime. If Knuckles digs into the ground while underwater, does the OC meter drain faster? It would probably, it depends on how we handle the OC meter or the O2 meter. The OC meter. How fast can Knuckles create a new OC?
The OC.
The O2 meter has not been implemented into it just yet. Emmanuel's the one that primarily works on Knuckles, and he's been busy with school-related stuff, so he's not had a chance.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Emmanuel, how dare you have education?
It would more than likely drain at the rate of the digging. Like it wouldn't combine. It would most likely take the fastest value and drain at that rate. In which case, it would just be super unideal to dig underwater, which could be a downside to the digging. Like you may not want to dig underwater. But
that's how I would do it, honestly.
Yeah. But that is actually a good question because that's a good segue onto Knuckles. Now that we're done talking about the water volume, we can actually move on to the changes in addition to Knuckles. Make it so that you can emit bubbles at breakneck speeds that will knock the air out of the player lungs. This one's name is Norkles the Porcupine.
He just got himself, turned himself like blue, and then it's like, this is my OC, guys.
The OC meter measures how original your character is.
Damn, we have a long way to go then.
Knuckles is very low right now.
Alright, so
it's about like a 2 out of 10.
I believe we've shown this off before. Knuckles can do up to 3 consecutive charged attacks whenever you hold.
No, it's actually spinning.
Well,
yeah, he spins now whenever he does it. So spins.
I don't know why I thought to add that in, but I just thought it would look cool.
And then at full charge, Knuckles can lock onto a target like so. Like so.
It's a little spin for like just adding flair to it there.
It's the bugged palette swap Knuckles from Sonic 3. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
However, the next thing that we have included into Knuckles' kit is what we call the Knuckles Slam. It's an AoE burst attack that cannot kill enemies. First and foremost, the most important part of this move is that it is unable to kill enemies. However, it does knock enemies up into the air, allowing you to open up for other combos, as well as knock enemies prone whenever they land. It does deal damage. So this enemy right here, it had 3 health. Now it only has 1 health, because I did deal damage to it. However, it will not kill enemies. So single health enemies, it won't kill them because of how like useful its radius is.
Freaking squash and stretch.
If you have it fully charged up and you have it targeted onto an enemy, you will hit that specific enemy. It will like target.
No matter the range.
Yeah, no matter the range, it'll target that enemy. So, boop. Like so.
We're still trying to figure out what exactly like it should do if you target an enemy with it. And if we continue with this idea of like it hitting specific enemy with that move, maybe you grab like a rock spire, jet out from under them, and impale them. Maybe, like hold them in place for a bit. That way, it's like it has some utilities. Like it holds them in place for like a solid like 5 seconds, maybe.
Will it be possible to add an option to additional? Would there be an option to add additional oxygen molecules to water? I wish to swim in hydrogen peroxide. Talk about a Grand Slam. Are we at Denny's or what? Yeah, this is the other thing is the Denny's move. I don't remember who it was that originally made that joke, but it's the Denny's move.
That guy.
It had 3 health, and now that I've attacked it, it has 1. How that happened, I don't know. Is the health gone? I don't know how health disappear.
Yeah, I have sped it up, but you do have to kind of be mindful about how like timing it still.
Yep. How do I do combos with Knuckles?
Shift
Press
bar, yeah.
buttons. Yeah, you press buttons. That's how you combo with Knuckles.
That was so condescending. Holy shit.
Will the reticle attack have any air variants? We've tossed around the idea of having air charged attacks, but we have not yet come to a, like, we've not come to an agreement on how we want to do it, because Emmanuel and I keep tossing around ideas to each other. And we're like, well, we could do this, but then we're like, oh, well, it doesn't flow this way, and we could do this, but it wouldn't flow that way, and we could do this, but it could cause contradictions in this and that, and like him and I keep coming up with different ideas, and we can't ever come to like
a consensus.
We can't seem to come to a consensus with it. There are ideas that we've tossed around, and there are ideas that we've heard and considered, but it might be to the point where we're like, oh, well, Knuckles, like power characters just don't fight very well in midair, so maybe while power characters are great at ground combat, maybe air combat is their weakness. But we are not going with that idea just yet, but it's an idea that we're keeping in mind because just because like we want to make sure we explore all the different avenues that we could
before just writing it off.
Yeah.
Also, the motherfucker can glide and has a continuous hitbox while doing so. So, like, it's not like he can't do anything.
Hey, look, it's Bane. I just realized. Bane has the same colors as Tails Z does, so I thought it was Tails Z. But nope, it's Mr. Bane.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I just saw that.
I'm waiting for them to notice that I made Twitch. I mistook you for someone else, Bane. I'm sorry.
Wow. Mr. Bane 2020.
Also,
where health goes.
Just
this
for them.
Relatable game. Where health go? I punch enemy and health go burn.
Health go down. Kill health.
Kill health. Ride wife. Life good. Knuckles and Blaze sort of have a thing like that in 06 where they could homing attack on. Yeah, the maximum heat, I believe it's what it's called. Or at least that's what it's called for Knuckles. And we have actually considered the idea of a maximum heat move for aerial enemies, but we've also considered the idea that wait, where's the that like you can throw enemies at aerial enemies.
Yeah, which you could probably already be able to do. I've actually been thinking about it, and like, I feel like that could be a good crutch. Just pick up fucking enemies and eat them, and like just make so that if you can pick up enemies and press a button and you get the same targeting reticle, and you can just yeet them at aerial enemies, and that could be a good balancing technique for it.
Was that the Old Spice whistle? I don't remember hearing an Old Spice whistle. So here, wait, our colors are slightly different.
What else? Oh, also, part of the reason we're also stuck on Knuckles because we haven't thought of a third power move yet, and like that also isn't exactly helping.
Yeah. We want to give Knuckles 3 power moves, similar to how we've given Sonic 3 home attack modifier. Sonic has the chain, the launch, and the wrecker. Knuckles so far has the piercing punch, the Knuckles slam, and we want to give him a third one because it's like the rules of 3, one for each different button on the controller, X, Y, and B. We have the X button and we have the B button. The X button being the piercing punch and the B button being the slam. However, we don't have a Y button in mind just yet.
We had some ideas if you want to go through them.
I don't remember all the ideas. Fazlock says some sort of shockwave punch like the Mantis Shrimp punch, but scarier. I don't know what that is, but we have this Grand Slam move here, the one where you do it in midair. We're planning on changing that to be a shockwave cone. It's not going to be a radius around Knuckles anymore. It will be a shockwave cone similar to like Reinhardt's Earth Shatter if you've played Overwatch, or
Doomfist.
Doomfist's Ground Slam attack. So that there is a shockwave move that we're planning on altering.
Oh, goodness.
Like a huge blast of air from an inch punch or something, a 1-inch punch. Oh, that's
I know what
one
he's talking
thing.
about.
Yeah, I think I know what he's talking about. We are planning on changing. It's actually kind of funny how you mentioned that. We're planning on changing and playing around with the piercing punch, like this move right here. An idea that we're actually considering doing is replacing it with a form of the deep impact, where you would still lock onto a target and you would lunge forward and do a deep impact move, but instead of piercing through the enemy and hitting multiple enemies, you would stop at the enemy and punch them and do a sort of shockwave from there. So we actually had that exact idea, Fazlox, but we were planning on using the deep impact to pull it off, because the deep impact is where Knuckles creates an explosion at the end of his punch. So we thought that we still want it to be a multi-target hitting move, so you would use the deep impact to hit a single target, but then the shockwave could hit a few other targets, either knocking them down or dealing like maybe 1 tick of damage versus the single target, which would deal the full amount of damage whenever you hit them. Because the nice thing about the piercing punch is the fact that you can hit multiple targets, but it can like constantly push you around into places where you don't want to be. Like if you use a piercing punch on a locked on target, you want to go to that target. So we have it so that you are locked on and pulled to that target, but then you just keep going and you can end up putting yourself in unfavorable positions. And because you're still moving around constantly, it does make it hard to be in a proper position to follow up a piercing punch with a knuckle slam, because a knuckle slam requires enemies to be nearby, and if I'm sitting here charged up and I like punch through all these enemies, I'm nowhere near any other enemies, so my knuckle slam doesn't really do anything. So we're planning on altering the piercing punch to do something else, and our one idea so far is the deep impact move. We haven't come up with really any other. Actually, no, we have come up with another idea, but I don't like it.
Oh no, the skewering one.
Yeah.
Oh dang
punch.
it!
I still don't care for the skewer punch idea.
I mean,
good.
I mean, like if I were to explain it, simply all it is that instead of, you still pierce through enemies, but you actually Knuckles will stack them, like kind of like a shish kebab on his knuckles. It's a dumb idea. And like you can just stack up multiple enemies, and then like the third punch will send them all like flying away or something like that. So like Knuckles can just skewer enemies and then use them to deal extra damage or as projectiles. But it's one, it's a more complicated idea to pull off, and two, the power moves are supposed to be more so single target moves, and the skewering idea makes it more reliant upon gathering other enemies, even though it's an interesting concept. And like I want Fizz on this one. Like I've been thinking about it. It's an interesting concept. We could probably use it for other things, but for now, I think the deep impact idea is probably better for now, at least.
Knuckle Bob. I'd say great minds think alike, but I don't want to compare my mind to great minds. You've got a lot of good ideas, Fazog. 3DD plays. Thank you for the follow. Maybe he could have like a ground homing attack where he locks onto an enemy on the ground, and then a mound of rocks can spring up from the ground.
Hey,
that's what this move actually is supposedly like might do, like this here.
Bane just followed. You gonna say thanks?
I did. Thank you for the follow, Bane.
I didn't hear that.
So 3D plays. This is actually what that is. We don't have the visuals for it, obviously, but we are thinking of having like a Fizzer crawl across the ground and like rocks pop the enemy up, something like that. And if you don't have a locked on enemy and you just do it in a radius, then supposedly like just rocks will appear around you, knocking enemies up into the air.
Yeah, like debris and stuff.
Yeah, so we kind of already have that in mind, but it is a definitely cool idea.
Ow.
Boop.
I did have an idea for what his top face button move can be, his third power move. It could just simply be like a grab. Like he rushes in and grabs them, and then from there you can press a button to throw them. But that throw would count as an extra power move.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to see. Why not have the rocks? Why not have the rocks used as springs? What?
I think do you mean like use the rocks to?
You mean like the rocks that appear whenever I do a like the Grand Slam, the Knuckle Slam move? That could work. Like if you run up to the spike rocks that knock an enemy into the air, like you yourself can launch yourself up on the air. That would be cool.
Oh, that would be cool. Like, imagine when you say rock, do you mean like a rock spire or just like a flat like rock boulder?
I'm not sure.
Because it'll be kind of a cool interaction where, like, you spawn the boulders and then you can drill into them either by pressing a button, or maybe you have to be in a tunneling mode already, and nugs will automatically pop into the air because there's a boulder on the ground or a rock spire. And they can be like, I wouldn't say permanent, but like they last a long time. So that can give Knuckles even more hype by like, it's kind of like Tails how he would be a setup character. He can make the spires preemptively by doing the move to the enemies and then use the spires to gain height whenever he wants. Something like that. It's actually, that would be a really interesting idea, traveling up spires.
I mean, because of my buy level. Yeah, that would be an interesting idea. I think we want to make sure we get the combat and a little more of a finished place.
Give him a raise. Emmanuel now gets 2 cookies.
Now he gets a half a cookie now.
Ah.
You guys order cookies.
He lost his pay for a while, I remember that now.
You go from a few crumbs to like half a cookie. It is an interesting idea. I think we could play around with that. But we will. I want to finish what we've got in mind with Knuckles because we still got Tails to work on, and I've been lazy with Tails.
Someone did mention asking about if Tails is still on the drawing board. Yes, we are still working with things like physically with Tails that we showed off last dev stream, and we're just talking about some like behind the scenes stuff with him. But a lot of stuff is still on the drawing board, and we may talk about him, we may not. Don't know.
Speaking of, there we go. We now have an in-game character switcher. This is purely for debug purposes, but some of this code will be repurposed for a Sonic 06 styled.
Or Sonic Hero styled, more like.
Or even a Sonic Hero style character swapper, like in-game. So. Oh yeah, that is something I did work on. I forgot about that. I don't know if I showed this off during the last dev stream.
Nope.
But
yes, I did. I did the character switching.
Whenever you are throwing a projectile, you can actually lock onto a target now. And if you move away from that target while you're still locked on and you throw a bomb, you will actually still hit that target. That way you don't have to be pinpoint accurate once you've hit the target and you have a lock-on them. Why did they not die? Oh, probably because the radius damage sometimes doesn't kill enemies.
Well then.
If you look away, it will eventually unlock from the target. So that way, like, if you don't want to hit that target, you don't have to. Like, if I look away long enough, it'll say, like, oh, that target is, like, not... You've looked away long enough, I'm not going to home in on that target anymore.
But Blaze into Sonic Momentum. Failure to comply with this order is punished by cringe. Entitlement to death. But Blaze. Yeah, I know he meant to say but.
Also, currently using the character swapper breaks. It used to break everything. It doesn't break everything anymore. A lot of this is just the exact
mainly
same
the
problem.
spline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We got to change how the spline functions. Once we change how the spline works, which, by the way, we're going to do the same thing with the spline that we did with the water volume, where you have to enter a trigger before it casts. But we haven't done it yet. Once that is done, then all of these issues will, for the most part, disappear. Because it's like, oh, I'm trying to get a reference from the character, but you swapped characters, so for a few split seconds, that reference is dead, and I don't like it. So, it tends to fail whenever that happens. But once we change it so that the thing no longer runs on an event tick, because it currently runs on an event tick for some goddamn reason. But once we change it so it no longer does that, it shouldn't have any more problems with the character switcher, theoretically. So when you guys say a rule of 3, would that mean Tails will perhaps 3 different kinds of bombs? Yes, actually. I'm going to swap to Tails in the instance. rather than with the character switcher, so I don't come up with those problems, because not only does it come up with problems, it also tanks the game because it's a bunch of errors.
Yeah, just not good.
So currently, Tails at the moment has 2 bomb types that we're kind of playtesting with. I don't know if we're going to keep them. They're Breath of the Wild type bombs. If you press the X key or the boost button or the shift key, Tails will throw out a sticky bomb. And if you press the F key or the Y key, the special key, while you're not currently pressing the charge button. This year's the charge button is the same button that you press with Knuckles to charge up a punch or a special type of punch.
Demo man.
If you're not pressing that and you press the F or Y key, you can manually detonate the bombs. They do have a timer detonation. Oh, I pressed the wrong button.
Arson.
They will eventually explode after a set amount of time, but you can manually detonate them like so. And if you press the F key, you will throw out a spherical bomb, one that rolls and does not stick. You cannot manually detonate it, but it rolls around. It deals more damage than the sticky bombs do, but yeah, well, its blast radius is also a lot wider. So if I were to throw this probably about right here and it rolls, it did 5 damage to that enemy.
Oh, he's coming after you now.
He is. Versus that only did 2 damage to the enemy. Oh, I think that did.
I think I know how to fix that shooting enemy now as well.
So, we do have more than one type of bomb for Tails, and I have a third bomb in mind that I want to play around with, a dummy bomb. It doesn't actually deal damage to enemies. It might stun them whenever it explodes, but it probably won't actually deal damage. But the idea of the dummy bomb is that it wants to distract enemies, so enemies will no longer... Yeah. It will attract enemies. Enemies will prioritize the dummy bomb rather than the player character. We're actually thinking of using Tails Doll. Although Choo Choo bombs, as a follower, I think Choo Choos could actually work. Like if we wanted to do some type of follower bomb, we could use Choo Choos.
Wait, Choo Choos? That sounds familiar.
It's another
Choo Choo
Sega
Rocket
property. So Choo Choo Rocket's another Sega property, and Sonic Battle had a Choo Choo Rocket reference because that's Tails' bombs in it is Choo Choos.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So if we did a follower bomb, we could use Choo Choos. I'm not against that.
Wisp bomb.
Tails' bomb throwing will probably be the most dynamic of the combat in terms of like modular plug-in use. Like if you can design and create a bomb, because currently what we have in the character objects, we have a bomb parent class, and essentially if you want to throw a bomb, you just have to create a child and then cast to that child and spawn it. But essentially these bombs already have the basic required components in order to explode and cause damage, so all you'd have to do is say, hey, once you throw this and the bomb spawns in and the bomb recognizes that it's been spawned in and thrown, then all you'd have to do from there is tell the bomb what to do. So if you wanted to track a target, you do that in the bomb, or if you wanted to distract an enemy, set it as like some specific character type or whatever. So creating your own bombs for Tails and stuff like that would actually be probably the easiest and the most modular system that you could of the different characters. But what was you saying, Emmanuel?
I was gonna say I just been messing around like while you're talking. I actually found a way to properly actually make the bombs fall faster and predict it too accurately.
Oh, neat.
And we could probably use that for the springs and the dash ramps too, so you can change the gravity of it. But you know,
we'll handle that here in a little bit.
We're running out of gravity.
Merely my opinion, but why not just change the spherical bomb to just a straight line? One, I like messing with physics objects. It's fun. 2, I don't know. And we could do that. These 2 bombs, they're not the de facto bombs that we're going with. These are test bombs that we're playing around with. Testing around the different projectile interactions, different, like, radius explosions, how enemies interact with them, how they interact with the environment, things like that, as well as how spawning these physics actors in interact with the projectile predictive throwing code, things like that. So I'm not saying like, oh, how this is right now is how it's going to be or it has to be. So the spherical bomb could be just a straight line bomb. It could be. I haven't, like, none of this is set in stone. We're just prototyping stuff at the moment, basically. What happens if a rolling bomb hits a dash ramp? Nothing. The bombs, the dash ramps, the springs, the dash rings, and the dash panels all check for an interface. And it wouldn't be difficult to do, honestly. All you would have to do is tell these bomb actors to use the interface. So if I threw that, nothing would happen. It could be interesting to do, and it would not be super difficult to do. All that I would have to do is say, hey, like, add this interface to its class. It's currently got the character object interface. I would just have to add the other interface and then add an event on the object that says, hey, I've interlapped with this, launch myself at this velocity, It would honestly not be super difficult to do. But currently, no, it doesn't. And once we get a better idea on how we want to take Tails' combat, that's something that we can implement. It wouldn't be difficult to implement. So. A dash bomb. Yeah, like, it'd be interesting, like, you throw a bomb through a dash ring and it, like, launches the bomb at a set projectile arc.
I was talking to Fizz and Reese, like, months ago about potentially making so that flight characters have an innate ability to, like, pick up, like, springs and dash ramps and stuff like that and actually place them or, like, inherit their abilities somehow so that you can mess around with enemies or objects. But
just the idea of programmatically adding that fills me with dread and pain. Like, I've not even worked on it, and I can already feel the future pain of me potentially working on it. Like, my mind is stretching out across time and space to parallel dimensions where we actually worked on this, and I can feel that pain.
He's imagining everything.
He's big branding it. Like, Galaxy brand.
Like, no. I do remember you bringing up that idea, and if I could, I would reach across the United States and smack you, but I can't, so.
I'm just bringing it up because that just reminded me of it.
Yeah. Slam dunk bombs and ramps. It'd be cool if the bomb explodes when it catches on fire. That could be a thing. Like, if these here, if it overlaps with something that just causes a fire trigger. This is like, oh, you've overlapped with a fire trigger. Then all it would have to do is say, like, hey, explode now, because it's overlapped with the bomb. So that would not be hard to do either. I think we kind of probably need to change some of these, or actually what we could do is we could alter some of these damaging objects, like the bombs, the spikes, these flamethrowers. We could alter them to use an interface. That way more objects can interact with them as well.
And I've already made an enum of different, like, damage sort of, like, types, kind of like, Pokemon types. I just made some, like, a bunch of placeholder ones, but in theory you can use that to create elemental types of damage and interactions.
Slam dunking bomb. You mean hoops? Can the bomb explode with the monitors? No, not at the moment. I don't know why you would want that. I mean, I understand why you would want that, but I also don't understand why you would want that. Because, like, if I threw that bomb and I ignited it, that is like 3, potentially 4 different monitors that would break simultaneously. Not simultaneously. They do have they would break in a specific trace order. There's no way you could really predict what that trace order will be. And at most, if that were to happen, like, it would be like, oh, you've destroyed the monitor, but you don't get the object because you've destroyed the monitor. with the projectile. So like, I mean, theoretically, yeah. Theoretically, monitors would not be that close together. But that could still potentially happen. Like, sometimes in some games, like, you have multiple rings put together. Or I remember in a few... I think there's, like, 1 or 2 levels in, like, Sonic 3 where they have, like, 2 different elemental shields within close proximity of each other. In a 3D game, you wouldn't do that. But it's still potentially... The problem with it is that I can't account for that. I can't say, oh, you know, what would happen if this were to happen? Because I can't tell what people are going to use this for. If I coded it to interact with these boxes, but I didn't take something like that into account, and then someone in the future designing a level decided to put like 10 different elemental shields back to back, and then blew them up with a bomb, and then it breaks things, and then they're going to be like, oh, why does it break things? Why, like, I can't account for something like that.
I know a simple way to fix it, actually.
What?
Just simply make it, because when you do the overlap, you have to do an overlap and get all the elements inside of it, and then choose all of it, do something with them properly. Mm-hmm. All you have to do is just make it so that it only just does it to one of them. You can just make it random too. That way, the bomb only explodes one of the monitors, even if it overlaps with all of them.
Yeah, but then like that like induces RNG into the mix that people wouldn't really like. Like, oh, I want to do this, but I have to get lucky and hit the right monitor, you know. So
yeah, but once again, that's if I wouldn't say if someone does bad level design, but level design doesn't account for it, so it just makes it so it wouldn't break as easily, at least. Yeah. But just a random idea.
At most, what we could tell it to do is just say, hey, yeah, it overlaps with the monitors and it breaks the monitors, but maybe you don't get what's within them, so that way you actually have to be careful with the bombs. Like, you don't want to use them and accidentally destroy something useful, you know? Just add that level extra layer of tactical use. But
or the powers drop as like items they could pick up, but yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll play around
Smug
with
honey.
the idea. Smug honey. We'll play around with the idea, but I wouldn't hold your breath on that one. Unless my game has monitor interactions. This is a framework. Most likely there wouldn't be multiple monitors in one place, or it would be multiple rings. Yeah, but like I said, you can't guarantee that's what it will be. I can't control or tell people, hey, don't put like 4 elemental shields back to back. I mean, I could tell them not to do that, but it's not going to stop them. They could do it anyway. And if it breaks something, then they're going to be like, well, why does it break stuff?
It's like, you can't tell me what to do. Tails throws a bomb. Engine crashes.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's one thing I like to... yeah. That's one thing I
see
like
you
to
guys didn't see it.
Because I'm trying to explain something.
You don't say when I, sneeze, so, F you.
As I was trying to say, I like to try and take certain situations into account when coding things. Like, for example, this silver psychopad. It will technically, if anything is assigned a position on the psychopad, but Silver has those things in his hand, I have to take into account that it has to pull that out of Silver's hand and then remove that from the list of objects that Silver has currently held. Like, that is something that I have to take into account with these kinds of things. And that kind of falls under that situation. Like, it's easy to say, oh, well, you could just do this. And technically, yeah, we could just do this, but it would also, like, break it if we're not careful. It could cause problems if we're not careful. We have to, like, think it through.
Fizz, you have to resign. Apparently Ben is the new leader.
Oh, no.
You're the new leader of Infinity Plus. I mean, alright, if you want to take over, right, go ahead.
He's been waiting for this moment for 2 years.
He's just like, yeah, fuck this job.
How can it be a framework, but it don't fucking work? Yeah, that's exactly the thing. Like, if we include something like this and we don't properly, like, set up the interactions and we don't figure out a way to set up the interactions and stuff, then people are gonna complain to us like, oh, but why isn't that done for me, you know? We'll play around with the idea, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not against the idea of the bombs interacting with other objects and stuff, but we'll just have to see what we can and can't get away with. Obligatory Green Hill loop is obligatory. I mean, yeah, it is obligatory. We have to have a loop so that way we can properly test the loop physics and the loop interactions. Which, for the most part, functions fine. But if we want to change anything, then we need a loop to test it, so it is obligatory.
Also, it's placed right in a loading volume, so it keeps freaking
I know.
over.
The Reese, you're supposed to move it, and then you didn't.
I did move it, but then remember it crashed, and I never pushed that change, so,
yeah.
If you did a change, and the change didn't commit, did it really happen? Huh?
Exactly. It never happened.
So
Fair.
that just makes you lazy.
I've moved it outside of the loading volume. Zerbane, I've recently discovered the Sonic Rush 3 fan soundtrack. Well then.
I mean, one of the songs was, I believe, Seaside Hill.
To move on from Tails, we're gonna hop back to Knuckles real quick. We don't have anything to show off with Knuckles, but we do have one other topic that we need to talk about with Knuckles, and that is the overheat system.
Oh, yeah. That, and also you just show that the AI and the playpen also kind of react a bit better, but that's behind the scenes, really.
The AI on this playpen will actually take damage and stuff. They don't die, but they do take damage.
Yeah, it's still slightly broken in ways that is hard to explain and annoys me. Some of it's more obvious, some of it's less obvious, and because I'm a perfectionist and been working on this for so long, I pull my hair out. But it's mostly working. I'm going to shut my mouth now before I scream.
It currently only works with Knuckles because Knuckles cannot take touch damage.
No, it works with other characters now, too.
I thought you said... well, I mean, I knew it worked with other characters, but other characters would take damage because the overheat...
No, I fixed that.
Okay. I don't remember you saying that.
No, it's fine. I probably forgot to mention it, honestly.
Alright, so the other thing that we wanted to talk about with Knuckles real quick is to do with discharging. I think what we were talking about is this charging will stay the same like this. Like, you still have to, like, you don't have to sit still and charge, but you do have to, like, slow down and charge to an extent. And if you do that at high speeds, it will slow you down while you charge. And you can slide. Like, we want to keep this as a thing. However, that's only if you initiate a fight like this. Like, if you are starting out a fight completely fresh and you want to start out with a charge move, then you're going to have to make sure you charge it beforehand. However, we've noticed that this charge does not flow well in combat. Like, if I do regular attacks here and then I stop and charge up an attack, I basically stop everything I'm doing to charge up an attack. So what we were thinking about doing is not getting rid of the charge, but subverting the charge in the middle of combat. And I know that we had tossed around the idea of an overheat system. So, like, while you're in the middle of combat doing and pulling off combos, you will charge up a meter exclusive to the power characters. And once the meter is charged up to a point and potentially even overcharged, you could either speed up the charging thing, like if you hold the button it charges up like twice as fast, so it charges extremely fast, or it could completely bypass the charge so that, like, once you are at a full meter or a mostly full meter or a meter up to a certain extent, it will bypass the charge, allowing you to, like, press a button and it being automatically at max charge, allowing you to simply do a charge move. So that way it helps integrate the charge moves into the basic combat a bit more, while still, like, providing flow. That way you don't have to constantly stop and charge up a charged move. That was kind of our basic idea. Let's see here. Bane says, why not just change it to a running base move? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
I think he means like allow you. Actually, I am confused too because you can run, so technically just slower.
Yeah, if you are running and you hold the charge button, you will slide and kind of drift, but you can walk while charged.
If you charge up all the way, or if you lose all your speed, which we may change around. Like I kind of like the idea of being able to charge, but maybe if you hold down the roll button, you immediately go into like the over-the-shoulder mode, just so you have an option. Would it be hard?
It could. I also had the idea where. Remember my my Wario charge move?
Oh god. Oh my god.
All right, so if anyone has played WarioWare, I've not mentioned this in a long time because I kind of just forgot about it. In WarioWare, and even in Pizza Tower, because Pizza Tower, not WarioWare, Wario Land. Pizza Tower is a Wario Land game, or a Wario Land inspired game. You can press a button to essentially increase your maximum top speed, and you go into a charging state where you basically ram and blast through enemies. That could be a thing where like if you're moving below a certain speed and you press the charge button, you'll slow down to a stop and charge. But if you're moving above a certain speed and you press a button, maybe Knuckles goes into a charging state where he'll still charge up a charge move, but like he dashes forward at higher speed, and maybe he loses some like left and right movement control, and you can like burst through enemies with it. So that way it would still be a way of initiating a fight with a charge move. And like maybe in what it does instead is like maybe instead of charging it, it fills up your overheat meter. That way you can't just hold it forever. Like once your overheat meter reaches maximum charge with the running charge, you'll fall out of it maybe. So that way you gotta time it properly and you can't just hold it. It would be like a pseudo boost in a way for power characters, if that makes sense.
I just thought of something I want to mention now when we start talking about Prime.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
We'll get to that. Not yet.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Also, since we're talking about the focus moves, I had also was thinking of making it so that if you go into this focus mode idea we had, it going off of what Bane said about it enforcing the digging moves, you can also charge up your digging moves much faster too, or pretty much instantly.
It would also enforce. Let's hear. And when you press when you reach a higher speed, so that Knuckles can still do it, but he would have to be smart about moving around the battlefield. It would also enforce digging because it would give him some speed and popping out. That could work. That does unfortunately partially go against our idea of combat for power characters. The power characters, when it comes to overall speed, are meant to be the slowest of the three character types. Their idea is you have an overall slower movement speed. However, you have the highest damage output while in the middle of a combat scenario. So dashing around constantly as a power character while in combat isn't really ideal. I don't mind initiating a fight at a high speed, or maybe even like ending a fight at a high speed to help keep the flow going. But at the end of the day, I don't think like you want to be dashing around combat at high speeds as a power character, because one, power characters combat is much more complicated than a speed or a flight character's combat. So the more complicated it is, the harder it is to keep track of at high speeds. And two, it like at that point in time, like I like already power characters are the de facto type that you want to go in for combat, but at that point in time, like why would you ever play speed characters or flight characters? Like at that point in time, power characters would just do everything in terms of like combat. He has some sort of headbutt move, and when he hits the ground, he slides on his front side. That's you're talking about the head bash. Whenever Knuckles is paired with Sonic in Sonic Advance 3, he doesn't do a glide anymore. He does a head bash that goes into a roll when he lands. It works for initiating, but it's hard to pull off when running around.
Well, you can already just cancel a glide with a roll, so you can kind of technically do that with timing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's useless, just that it would be technically redundant.
Yeah, the headbutt could work. I kind of like the idea of the charge move, like the Wario charge that I was talking about. I like that idea for initiating fights. And maybe you could include that into combat. Like, if you have a maxed out overheat bar, you could burst forward in a dash, like a very short dash if you wanted to.
Maybe you could do that by... One thing we keep forgetting about is that you can still double tap the charge button to do something if we wanted. Like, we can squeeze more moves out of it that way.
I don't know about that one, though. We'll have to see.
I mean, it wouldn't be hard to do. It's a deliberate action, but just putting that out there.
So yeah, the overheat system is what we mainly wanted to talk about. The point of it is to mainly help the flow of combat while you're already in it. I'm not against throwing around some ideas to help with the initiation of a charged move or a focus move at the beginning of combat. But I think we want to mainly focus on in the middle of combat right now, and that charged idea is what we have at the moment. Or I'm sorry, the focus idea is what we have in the moment. We keep throwing around names. It'll either be called the focus move or the overheat move or meter, whatever. So that's pretty much all I had. Oh man,
that's fine. I'm sorry, I was busy actually like changing all the springs and ramps and stuff to work with the new like thing I found we could change the gravity, and it works pretty well. I may not push it, but anyway, yeah, going back to what you're saying, being off topic, I like the idea of incentivizing like the players to keep up like a combo as Knuckles and other power characters, and I feel like having the charge moves would be a good reward for that. And possibly we could look into ways of initiating that. The problem right now with Knuckles is that Knuckles, like we said before, wasn't the hardest character to come up with moves for because it's very simple. But these are the problem points of Knuckles design-wise that we've run into. It's the charge moves, and like it's really just the charge moves. They're the only really hard part to design with Knuckles. But even the digging stuff, like design-wise, it wasn't that hard to come up with. It was just more so mechanically and code-wise making it up. So like, I guess the best way to put it is that we're already kind of having trouble design-wise with that, so we're probably going to try to keep it simple, but we're definitely going to think about it. It's just that we've been going in circles for a while, and we're probably going to have to commit to something sooner or later.
Can the charge move be canceled? Not at the moment. That is something we're looking into, though. We think that'll be super useful. Like, if you do a fully charged, like a maximum charge move, you have 3 moves queued up that you can do, but you may not want to do all 3 of them. So we are considering the idea and looking for avenues on canceling it. So what we could do is like the shoulder buttons could cancel it. We're not really using the shoulder buttons for anything at the moment. But like if you're in the middle of charging, you press either of the shoulder buttons, you'll just cancel your charge state or your charge queue, you know.
Yeah, there you can just jump out of it.
Can you? I thought that didn't work at the moment.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I could put that back in. I just haven't bothered at the moment.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we don't know about jumping yet though, because the jump button's a button you could more easily hit than the shoulder buttons. So you could accidentally jump out of a combo rather than pressing one of the shoulder buttons, which could pull you out of the combo. Which it's neither here nor there, but I think the jump button is a button that you can more easily hit on accident. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, and also that still depends on what we do with the shoulder buttons. I have been still tossing around the idea of maybe making them the guard button instead of crouching. Like you still have the button, but you press the shoulder buttons to do it. But we still have to find a use for them at some point.
Yep.
That's something we could talk about later, but I feel like we should do the charge moves first.
Yeah, and we're almost to the point where, like, once we get these charge moves in place and we, like, spruce it up a little bit, I think Knuckles will be good. For a little while, we can move on to Tails, and then after that, we'll just do a bunch of touch-up work and tie up loose ends. Because, like, I think canceling, I think, actually needs to be included into, like, the actual finish-up work, not the touch-up work, but the part we do before we move on to Tails. But yeah.
Is it time?
I think it is. I don't think we have much of anything else to talk about in terms of the project. We've kind of gone over what we need to. Will there be walls that can only be broken with charge moves? Probably not, no. But there are already walls that exist that can only be broken through power characters. They don't actually work at the moment because I broke them, but it shouldn't be too difficult.
Isn't that the point? They break.
There are these breakable walls already will already be looking for, like, they already have a setting like only power, and if you take that on, then only the power character will be able to break through them. So I think I have a way of fixing it actually, but I'll mess with that later.
Oh boy.
We are also considering the idea of, like, you know, breaking objects and stuff, like the monitors and stuff like that with your combat, like, you know, punching these rather than having to jump on them, you know. So all right, unless you have anything to add, Emmanuel, I think we're ready to move on.
Nope, let's move on.
Kill Eggman. Kill. So, and just because we're moving on doesn't mean you can't ask questions or anything about the project. We'll answer those questions. But to move on from Infinity Plus, because we don't have anything else to talk about because we have been lazy.
This is now podcast side.
Yeah, this is the podcast side.
Oh boy, I had an idea, but I guess we should just go over the basic thing for anybody who hasn't seen, even though everyone's probably heard about it now, but 5 times over.
Indy Kylo is rating with a party of 7. Oh, thank you, Indy Kylo.
Oh.
How was your stream? It's kind of interesting. I would assume that you're rating because you were also streaming in the science and technology category, which we have been talking about in Unreal Engine here. However, we are literally about to move on from the topic of Unreal Engine onto something else. Kylo Raid. Is it like Kylo Ren from Star Wars, but Kylo Raid? If so, that's clever. That's actually clever.
We're being rated. We're not even talking about science and technology.
We literally were just about to move on from the science and technology topic onto something else. Just doing some game dev. Well, that's what we were doing. We were just doing some game dev.
Oh, we're doing many game dev.
I hope your stream was very well, and thank you for the raid, by the way. For those of you who did just enter, I guess to very, very quickly gloss over what it is that we were working on, because we're actually getting ready to move on. I mean, were we not discussing tech? We were, but we were about to move on from that discussion, Shiranui. We were about to move on to something else. We are working on what is called Sonic Infinity Plus. Sonic Infinity Plus is a framework built in the Unreal Engine based off of the original Sonic Infinity engine released by Oban, a Korean content creator who has since disappeared. He released a Sonic Infinity engine and in a very unfinished state, so 2 years ago I decided to pick it up and say, hey, this could be more finished. And I put together a team, and we have rebranded under Sonic Infinity Plus, and that is what we are currently working on. Infinity Plus is a framework that, when complete, will allow people to download and use in their own versions of Unreal Engine in order to create their own fan games, either by editing and changing things in the code however they see fit, or if they are just now getting into game development and programming, they can use the simple drag and drop assets of Unreal to put together something more little Timmy-esque, as we like to call it, up until they start to learn the more ins and outs of game development. So we're hoping this will be a tool for those who are just now getting into game development and becoming familiar with tools like Unreal, or to an extent Unity, and as well as a tool that can be used for people who are knowledgeable of game development but don't want to start from scratch, like start from square one. They want to start with a pre-made framework that they can then build off of and change. So that's what Infinity Plus is for those who are new that came in with the raid.